Hey y'all. I tried my best to make this a shorter presentation, but then I was like, but it's Thursday. And if this was a dissertation related, like how to write the literature review, I wouldn't be trying to make it short. I'd be trying to give you the information you need. And so that is the approach that I took to for today's conversation. But before we get there, how are y'all doing? What evidence or data do you have? There's like proof that demonstrates that your time is important. We say this a lot, or at least I hear it. My time is too important for blah, 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 XYZ. What evidence or data? I know this might be a strange question to go with it. I'm just curious. What comes to mind? How do you know that your time is important? Like your time in particular, not like time as a general construct, but your time. Like by what actions, by what rules, what parameters do you have for yourself that indicate that your time is important? We also have criticism about the question. Let me know. And make sure I get some sleep, even if it means oversleeping. I'm not judging you at all because I just hear my alarm in my dreams. And somehow my brain thinks we don't need to wake up. And I just keep going. I think it's I've made such a rule not to hit snooze that my brain's like, well, we'll just ignore it, integrate it into your dreams. I say prioritize it by saying no to things. How do you know what things to say no to, Leanna?
If I don't want to do it, or if it's going to throw me off what I want to do for myself.
Yeah, I'm like, "Ooh, I gotta go somewhere and talk to people." Ooh, that part. I'm trying to be better. I'm trying to go outside and go talk to strangers, but like it's Atlanta, y'all. And after the whole Keith Lee situation, I just want to stay in the house. Because if somebody as nice and sweet as him is getting like torn apart up in these internet streets, I'm like, what hope do nice people have? If you don't know who Keith Lee is, don't worry about it. Don't even go down a rabbit hole. You're gonna be there forever. Just know that he had Atlanta restaurants in shambles. Just exposing people. What I want to do with my time, the quality of the time and the value I add to it. What is that? Tell me more, Candace.
Um, I feel like I okay, I'll use an example of a guy friend of mine. He's always coming to me for advice on stuff. And I'm like, I'm giving you quality stuff here. Like people pay me for the information
Hey, money.
that I'm sharing with you. So if you don't value it, then I'll hold back and and we can chat sometime. But I feel like my time is valuable because of other things that I could be experiencing or experiences I could be sharing with other people. So I bring value to it.
Absolutely. This is just like thank you so much. This is a general question to get us going on this conversation about prioritizing time. This is probably the number one thing when folks are deciding to either join the institute or work with me in some capacity. They'll say something like, I just need to be better at prioritizing my time. I just need, if everything could be solved, if I could learn how to prioritize my time. And I always think that's very fascinating because I'm like, you think it's about prioritizing your time. So I was like, let's just have a whole conversation about this. Prioritize, designate or treat something as more important than other things, determine the order for dealing with a series of items or tasks according to their relative importance. So this was a question I was wondering is like, how do we know if we're prioritizing our time? What is the model or the system we're using to determine what's more important than another thing? And then another question I was thinking about is like, do we think about ourselves as individuals, like ourselves as like separate individuals from other people? And how do we prioritize that? Do we even know what tasks are related to us prioritizing ourselves? We had sleep earlier. There's some other things. And then when it comes to your individual goals, do you think they're important? Do you think they're more? Do you think that you and your goals, like finishing a dissertation, is more important than other people and other things? If I say it another way, is it more important than your family and friend relationships? Is it more important than your job? Is it more important than what people think of you? And how do you know? Another way, I guess, is how are your actions showing that these things are more, that you and your goals are more important?
Well, I was just going to say that it's Carla, that looking at where I spend my time, that's how I can tell. And I know I prioritize my family, all other things, and relationships are prioritized over over things that I can do. And so when I think back to when I was going through coursework, school was the priority and everybody knew that. And so on the weekends, everybody left the house so that I could have the house to myself, and they would go off and spend the night, at one of the kids' house. My husband would go to one of the kids' house or something. And so I prioritized it, and I'm like, go, leave me here. But I haven't done that.
It's so funny. I love it. You got to go to Fred. Go find one of your children to go be with because it's
Mhm.
not here. Yeah, it's something to think. So that's perfect. Thank you so much for sharing because that's for me. This is the goal of this conversation today is thinking about, and that's a great comparison. How you showed like how you prioritize yourself and your time and coursework. Are you doing the same thing now that you're in exams and dissertation? Yeah, which makes sense, right? Because it's just real open ended over here on this side of things. And so it doesn't feel that urgent or immediate to block off the time. But one could argue this is when you want to double down on set boundaries, right? I saw a thing Brene Brown says she spins her ring 3 times and says boundaries over discontent. Ooh, I ain't listened to a Brene Brown nothing in a while. I wonder how's she doing? What is her life looking like? I see where I'm struggling. My relationships are more important to me than my dissertation. And at the same time, I need to prioritize my dissertation so I can be done. But at least you know the order, right? This tonight, right, is like my assumption is that most of us don't have the time or consistently have the time to really think about what are the priorities in this season of life because they change, right, based on what's going on. I often say time management is energy management, which is why I love me some planners, y'all, and I love me some productivity videos and worksheets. You give me a worksheet, I just would be like on cloud 9. And I know what I know for sure in my Oprah voice. They got nothing to do with time management. It comes down to how well do you manage your energy? You want to get better at using your time? How well do you take care of yourself? Right? We don't have capacity in general to think about our priorities. Now, Google said capacity is the amount that something can produce. I think about capacity as time plus clarity plus energy. I've updated my definition because I used to have a different way of saying this, but this makes more sense to me. Gets at the same thing. We need time, clarity, energy to know what's important, how to complete those important things, and in what order to complete the important tasks, because we always have multiple. But if you take nothing else from today's conversation, focus on your energy if you want to use your time more efficiently. So all slides and recordings should be up to date in Kajabi. If I missed something, please let me know. But the Zoom is empty, the recording cloud. So I can go try to find it. Or if I forgot to upload a slide, which is actually a thing. So I do have those. I could put those in if I miss one. I have it on my schedule to go look over them this week to see if I'm missing any slides, but please let me know. But yes, I promised that I was going to put these up tomorrow morning when Zoom gets done downloading this presentation because someone was not able to be here and they really wanted to be at or to watch the recording. Okay, so time. Most of you say things like, I run out of time, I don't have enough time. And you think it's like, I'm so busy. And if you read my email this morning, listen, I read that email this morning and was like, girl, would you back up? I am often reading my emails to listen to the podcast episodes like, who are you talking to? I don't know. I don't think it's me. I don't think it's me. But I was reading that like, my feelings are hurt. Okay. This is so rude. But yeah, I usually hear you don't have time because you're so busy. And in my email today, if you didn't read it, it said, you're not busy. And it also said, please don't show me your calendar. Don't try to prove to me you're not busy. You just think you're busy. Because busy is a state of mind. And you're busy, most likely, because you're people pleasing, you're procrastinating, perfectionism, avoidance is another way of saying that. I invite you to look at your calendar. I invite you to see how you spent your time for the past 7 days and see how much of that was for you and how much of that was for other people. You might be surprised at how you're really spending your time. But what's more important is not the amount of hours, but more about why. Why are you doing those things? Right? Because I get that we would do other things. We will do things for other people out of love because we want to, because we want to help them. what I'm asking you to do is be honest about, is everything that you're doing for other people is because out of love, because you want to, because you like you want to have a reciprocal relationship, or are you looking for a more transactional relationship? Which I was like, that's a good conversation to have as a group. The differences between a reciprocal relationship and a transactional relationship, because they're not one and the same. But I must stay as much as possible on task here. Maybe you do have the time, because some of you will say, well, I have the time. There shouldn't be any reason why I shouldn't get the things done. You can have the time, but if you don't know how to do it, then it doesn't matter if you have the time. Or if you're going to sit there the whole time wondering, am I doing this right or am I wasting my time? Right? It doesn't matter if you got the hours. If you don't feel like what you're doing is it matters or if it's going to work. Maybe you do know what to do and maybe you do have the time, but you exhausted. You just tired. You like, if I could just sleep for a month, maybe I could have a little bit of energy to do a little bit of something. This whole thing, like, you're not sure if you do anything right. I mean that in general. Like, you as a person, you like to, anything I do, is it right? Do I help anyone? I don't even know how I made it this far. I love it when y'all tell me, wait, I got distracted by Kalia's. What is that? A bag? What's that? It's beautiful, by the way. Yes, I love it. It was a good distraction. I was like, what is that coming through the screen? Okay. I love it when people say, like, I don't know, I must have talked a real good game to get this far. I'm like, let me get this straight. You think you got the gift of gab so much that you talked your way through a doctoral program, through exams, through mostly through a dissertation? Help me. Make it make sense for me. Cause I'm not, because paperwork had to be completed. But you had to demonstrate some things. You didn't talk your way through that. It's not a trick. It's not an accident. You earned your way to this point. Having more time won't fix not knowing what to do, right? Going on a writing retreat will give you more time, but it doesn't mean that you'll know what to do once you get to the writing retreat or that you'll have the energy once you're there. Increasing your caffeine levels, I was talking to me, won't give you more time or understanding of the task. Just because you got more energy don't mean you know what to, like, you know what to do or you have the time to do it. Knowing what to do, having the clarity doesn't necessarily give you more time or the energy to do it. Right? My whole point is you need all three of them. Don't try to like, substitute. You need all three. But it's really going to come down to, do you see that you as an individual and your goals, because they're separate, are more important than what other people want and need? Because at some point, on some level, we're going to have to face this truth. And this is hard, especially if you're like people pleasing catches up with you often. At some point, you have to decide, does the people at work, the people in your house, the people who keep calling you on your phone, at some point, you have to decide that what you want and what you need is more important than answering the call, being with them in the house. You can be like, Carla, now you gotta get out. Everybody gotta get out. I like this. Husband, you get out too. Find somewhere to sleep. I don't really know. You grown. Figure it out. Are you willing to do that? Are you willing to give your goals and yourself time, clarity, and energy that it needs? It requires more time, more energy, and more know-how than you think. I wanted to title this as like, your arrogance is getting in the way. Your arrogance and your entitlement. And the reason why I'm using arrogance and entitlement, arrogance in the sense of you think you're better than what you are at managing your time and knowing how to get through the dissertation. Because you think you can do all the things. You think you can have the full calendar of things that you used to have and do a dissertation. That's where the arrogance comes in. You think you're better than you are. And I mean that with all the love in my heart. The entitlement comes in because you think it should be easier than what it is, because you're used to things being easy. Ego. On average, how much time, do you dedicate to your doctor life, dissertation life? Because I know y'all are in different places. On an average week, that should have said, in an average week, how much time are you dedicating? Not how much time you would like to, but actually, try to give me an actual number. 90 minutes. A good 90 minutes. 3 hours, 4 hours, 6 hours. I also want you to check in with yourself, maybe even write a note to yourself. How are you feeling about this number weekly, Kalia? How are you feeling? What's coming up for you in your body? What's coming up? What voices do you hear? This is also assuming that you have an internal dialogue, because it still blows my mind that people are just walking around this earth without an internal dialogue. I don't understand. I'm like, it's just quiet. You don't hear anything up there. I can't. I don't even. My brain. It's not 10. I know, but what's the number? Does it have to be 10?
My internal dialogue. I was like, wait, this is not 10. That was my internal dialogue.
And
The goal was
it's always on. Yeah, like I just the people. I'm like, you don't have worlds in your head. Help me. I have multiple worlds in my head. I don't understand how people entertain themselves 6 to 8 hours a week. I also want y'all to include too the time that you sit in front of the computer, but you're not producing anything. This is not about producing. I want to know how many hours, and you're like, no, I'm working on the dissertation thing, not what you're producing. I should have said that. um my conversation, you should be working on your dissertation, and I shut them up quick, real with the quickness. Oh God, no, don't do that. Am I working on it? Then don't bother me with the with the conversation. I try to tell mine that it don't always work. It feels like a long time, but I feel a lot of it is spent thinking about. Yes, right, because that counts too. That's what I'm curious about. I'm curious about too how much time you're trying to get yourself motivated, you're thinking, you're trying to figure out what y'all say, like, let me get myself together. Let me go read where I left off. Most of my conscious dissertation time is filled with more talking about the dissertation and writing. I mean, are you getting clarity? You most likely are. No, okay. I don't know. 24 hours a week. Oh, 6 hours. Okay. 10 to 12 hours. It's like holding your breath. Daniela, listen, we're on the same page. I worry sometimes that somebody's going to be able to, like in the future, they're going to be able to hear the internal dialogue. And I'm like, I hope that never happens because people do not need to know what is happening up here. 15 hours, 14, 20. Get my snacks. If I include journaling, then probably closer to 20. Social media apps are close to doing that, especially TikTok. I'm like, no, you got somebody. I don't know. I know you're listening all the time, TikTok, but you're in my head because that For You page gets a little too close to home sometimes. I'm like, there's no way you knew to send me that. I mean, the data probably is showing you that, but that's not the point. It's just real. That's why I'm going there a lot because it's 24 hours if you include YouTube. I love it. Think about. Okay, before I go to this next thing, I'm going to use money, not because I'm trying to say you should think about your hours in terms of money. I just find it helpful to put it with money to give you a different way of looking at it. Okay. Now, some of y'all don't want to fight me for the amount I put next to it, but I just need an easy math. Okay, all disclaimers out the way. Just take this as an analogy that it was intended to be. Let's say that every hour you are paying $25. You get $600 every day to start off with, and you must spend all $600, right? So $25 an hour, 24 hours a day. That's how I got to 600. Let's just say you go to work for 9 hours, which seems like a fair trade-off because although you're paying $225, remember I said every hour costs $25. So although you're paying $225 to go to work, you get $315. I was assuming you made $35 an hour. I don't know why 35 came to me. It just did. But the trade-off is that you get $90 for going to work. Because money is a tool, it allows you to not have to worry about growing your own food, building your own shelter every day, right? Like you use your money to take care of yourself. This is also another conversation we could have, that money is a tool, but because I can't all the way make that directly relate to the dissertation at this point, I'm gonna put a pin in that. But that's a word for somebody, that money is a tool. And said again, money is a tool. Okay. That means you're supposed to use it to help you and your family and your goals. All right. I just put that for somebody. Say you went to sleep for 7 hours because you follow the Scholar Basics. So you pay $175 to go to sleep. I done lost my marker. So that leaves 8 hours for everything else in life. In a typical day, you have 8 hours: family, self-care, dissertation, whatever else it is that you do. So you have $200. My math working out so far? First of all, like before I go to my next slide, any thoughts about this? Any reactions to this so far? Because the way y'all face look, I don't know. I just think I should check in before I go to my next slide.
we just try to see where it goes. I'm just patiently soaking it in. Yeah.
I know I coach on financial education, but I don't do math.
You don't do math. Okay. See, so
I know it's going somewhere, so I'm holding on. I'm just following.
Well, I hope, listen, this is me talking to myself. So let's say, right, it costs you $1,800 to do your proposal because the amount of time that it's going to take is $1,800, right? Y'all think, oh, this is what I'll do. I will just, if I'm supposed to work 6 hours, if I follow the scholar planning routine and I have my 6 hours every week, then that would be what 6 times 25 is 150. I probably should have put the math up here because we're doing math and I realize this is a trigger, but I'm gonna keep going. Most of you would think I should space it out evenly because that would make me consistent. It would make me like not be so tired. I'm following the process. Look at that. I'm doing exactly what I'm supposed to do. And in 3 months, I will have a proposal. Side note, this is true. Like you could do this. You could have a proposal in 3 months or wherever milestone you're at. Imagine getting it done in 3 months, but that's not what today's conversation is about. Okay, let me continue on. Y'all still following me so far, right? You think this is how it's supposed to be. But what if it's really like this? Week one, you go hard in the paint because that's what y'all do. Week one, like I'm gonna go all in, and I'm not gonna do the 6 hours. I'm actually do more. I'm gonna go all in. I'm gonna do 24 hours the first week. Because why? Why would I just do 6 hours? She don't know what she's talking about. I'm gonna do 24. And so you do the 24, and then you burn out. So you don't do anything for week 2, 3, or 4. Then we're in the next month. You're like, I'm gonna do it again. I got it this time. So you do the same thing. You repeat it. Then we get to month 3, and you're like, okay, that did not work the first 2 months, but I am making progress though. And so then you think you're gonna try to space it out, but you're in the shame spiral week 1 or week 2, and then week 3 and 4, you're like, well, I guess I could finish. So you do $300, right? Or 12 hours. We still end up in the same place, right? Y'all still following me on this. You end up in the same place. But what most of you will do is spend your energy worrying, why am I not person A? I should be person A. Instead of being person B, I should, why can't I get it together? Why doesn't it look like this? Even though you ended up in the same place in the same time. The only problem is you decided one was better than the other. And then because you decided one is better than the other, you start borrowing time from other areas because you tried to go like harder and paint. And you're like, I'm gonna be consistent and perfect. Instead of doing like 150 a day, I'm gonna do like 300 a day, but I'm gonna do it every week. And then I'm gonna just, right, you have this master plan and then you burn out. And we do the cycle over and over. Or you listen to other people who tell you you should write every day. I love it when people like, I don't know what you're talking about, but you need more than 10 hours a week to finish your dissertation. Now, if we go back up this chat, most of y'all are not doing what the people told you to do, and yet you're making progress. My only point in this example, I don't even know if it did what I wanted it to do exactly, but I was trying to demonstrate. What if how you work naturally is not a problem? Whether you're a combination of these, one or the other, what if it's not a problem? What if it's okay to work the 90 minutes a week and get to the end? Like, what if it's okay to have 1 week out of the month where you go hard in the paint and then the rest of them you like, I don't have nothing but a dissertation? What if it's okay that some, like you thought you was gonna write on Thursday, it just did not happen. You decided to write on Saturday instead, or not. Because just because you didn't show up in week 2 doesn't mean you're not gonna finish the proposal. But some of you will get stuck that, oh, I didn't show up for these 3 weeks. That means I'm never gonna get to the end. That's not true. What if you're just learning your natural approach to the work, and what if that's okay?
Mhm.
Anything else, Mimi? I love it. I love a good cosign. How clear are you on how to write your dissertation? Yeah, this is why you should not listen to music with words while you're creating slides because you miss words on the actual slide. If you were curious, I'm gonna tell on myself. I was listening, so I've been trying to listen to 1989 Taylor Swift because if you don't know about Taylor Swift, she's re-recording all of her albums so that she can own her
Mhm.
music. And I do not like this version of 1989. I'm real sad. I tried to listen to it 3 times. It's my favorite Taylor Swift album, and then I don't like it. So that's what I was getting distracted with. But anyway, how clear are you on
Mhm.
a scale of 1 to 5 on how to write it? Not if you can, but if do you know how to do the steps? Do you know, like, if you had nothing but time and energy, you would know what to do? Oh, that's fair. 0. I don't really think that's true, Danielle, but I don't want to speak for you. I know I listen to you talk though. We're hanging out in the middle. Clarity. The quality of being clear, coherent, and easily understood. Y'all remember this dissertation is something you've never done before. even if you did a pilot project or whatever other words they say, we had to do a publishable paper in my program. And even though I went through the steps, I was like, but it's not a dissertation though. And it matters. And so because it's something new, you need to learn how to do the new thing. And we talked about last week that you're most likely going to fail and make mistakes because it's new. And especially with the dissertation, you're the one determining the steps and in what order to complete them and how to complete them, which is why this is so challenging, right? You're looking for your chair to tell you, but they're like, we can't tell you because it's your project. We can tell you generally what to do, but like you still determine what the dissertation is going to look like. And you probably don't have much, if any, experience creating the process and completing the process because it's two different skill sets. It's going to take you time to reach a level of clarity or a level of understanding of how you want to do a thing, when you're going to do a thing, and if that is even working for you. To expect that you were just going to roll into this dissertation process and be all ready to go, the program set you up, number one, but like that's not realistic. This is what say Dunning-Kruger, but I think that was an autocorrect because I was fighting with the Grammarly. But it's Dunning-Kruger in case you go look it up. Did anyone ever tell you this? The dissertation is only like 5 20-page papers put together into one document, or it's just 5 papers. Lies. Dunning-Kruger in their research project, they found that when we are just starting a thing, like if we're looking at people, here's a great example because we were talking about Rachel Hollis earlier. You may look at the people on the internet who create content like influencers. You might be like, that's not a real job. That's easy. All they do is stay at home and buy stuff off of Amazon and make a reel about it and tell me to go buy it off of Amazon. How hard could it be? But right, that's you on the outside looking in. At the same time, right, when you first joined your program, it's like, I mean, how hard could it be? You just take some classes and then you write a dissertation, right? Dunning-Kruger found that the less you know about a thing, the more you will rate the higher you will rate, you're confident that you will be able to do that thing. Another way of saying ignorance is bliss because you don't know what you don't know. You like, I mean, it can't be that hard, right? Think about you before you joined the program or in your first year as a student. And you were looking at other people do their dissertation, you're like, what they complaining about? They made it to the end. I'm the one that's at the beginning. All they have to do is to write a book. We write books all the time. Like we write papers all the time. Why? How could a dissertation be so hard? But it's because the more you're in this process, now you are where you are, you realize, oh, there's so much more you don't know. There's so much more that has to be done. You couldn't have seen this at the beginning because you didn't know. But now that you went through some classes, going through the exam process, you've seen more people go through the dissertation process, you start to understand more about research. You're like, oh, there's just so much. You, if you're not careful, can mistakenly think that you are not doing enough or you must not be smart enough because you're stuck. No, you got more knowledge now. You have more experience and you're realizing, oh, if I really want to do this well, there's some additional steps I'm gonna have to do that I didn't realize I had to do before. So I'm gonna need to update my timeline or update the way I approach this thing. It's gonna be hard. Okay, this is me trying to draw this. Let's talk this out. So it's going like this here. This is anything that you're doing new, you can apply this concept to. Okay, I'm just applying it to the dissertation. So we start off over here. If this was the y-axis is, I think it's confidence. The x-axis is competence, if you were curious, but go with me. So we start off over here. You're pretty confident. You're like, it's going to be simple and easy. That I got these classes. It's good. I mean, I've been to classes before. I got an undergrad degree. I got a master's degree. I mean, how hard could these be? Like, especially me, I was like, I mean, I have a master's in student affairs. They can't be telling me anything too much different in the PhD program. It's all students, college students. I mean, what else you going to tell me? So then you get to the exam and you're like, I got over my first hump. It's a little bit sticky. These exams didn't go as smoothly as I thought, but I mean, I got it. I'm through most of the process. I'm good. And then you start to go down the road of like writing your proposal, right? And most people start at the literature review. You're like, this is getting harder. Maybe it's just gonna take more time, more energy than I thought, but it's good. You're still feeling pretty good about it because you don't know. You don't know that you're on your way down. So you get to about right here. This is an imaginary line, which is why it's dotted. You get to right here, probably while you're defending your proposal or you're trying to defend your proposal, you're trying to get there. Maybe you're still stuck in the literature review. Maybe you're stuck somewhere in the methods. Maybe you're stuck in like editing purgatory. I don't know. You're stuck somewhere. Sometimes people make it through the defense and they don't submit IRB because they're like, I just don't think I could do this. I think I didn't know. And I don't think this is for me anymore. Calling this the pit of misery. You get into the pit of misery and you get stuck and you're like, I don't know. And maybe you push through to like IRB approval and you start thinking about data collection, but you're still like, I don't know. This line right here is where most people will quit because you like, clearly it's not supposed to be this hard. So I'm not supposed to be doing this. And what most people will do is just come back up here to something else, right? So it might be another doc program. We could be talking about, you could be at the end of the dissertation, right? And this could be like, all right, I did the data collection, I analyzed it. Now it's time to write up my findings chapter, but I'm tired and I don't know what to say. And I have too much to say and I don't know how to condense it. And they want me to, and I just, maybe I'll just write these three themes. And then you start writing it and you're like, I don't know. Let me go back up here. Let me find another three themes. And you just keep doing this. And most people will just loop like this, whether it's about school, whether it's about work, whether it's about working out, whether it's about writing a book, any goal, most people stay over here. They spend their life just finding one thing after another because they're used to the exciting part. Nobody wants to be here. So they just keep doing this. That makes sense. But if you can get yourself over here, be like, maybe you push through, maybe you find some support, right? Maybe you get over here. And you're like, it sucks to be down here, but I'm just gonna show up and put in the reps because that's all I got, friend. I don't got nothing else. And then it's something happening that I don't even know what the chat is no more. And you don't appreciate being called out. Oh, love, friend, it's love. Wasn't trying to call you out. You embrace the suck. I don't know if y'all ever heard that saying. Embrace the suck. It just suck. There's no easy way to sugarcoat it. It's just hard. But you show up and you keep going. And maybe you get over here and you're like, is there a light? Is that a faint light I see at the end of that tunnel? And that is enough to be like, okay, I must be on the right track. Let me keep going. But here's the thing. You're still in this steep thing. So at any moment you can slide back down here, right? Like it's not like just because you made it here, you're gonna keep going. None of this is linear. I'm just presenting it in a linear fashion, but at any time you can go back up and down. You can hit this wall again. Okay. But if you can keep yourself going because you see the light, you can get up here. It was hard, but rewarding. It wasn't as bad as I thought because at the end of this is another cycle. Now, the other cycle could be somebody's tenure track professor, you got a new job, you decided you're going to do, like, you're going to start your own business, you're going to start this all over again. But if you can remember that this is the process, no matter what, hopefully for the next goal, when you get back to the pit of misery and despair and sadness, you don't think something has gone wrong with you, that you will start to see it as it's just a normal part of the process. I'm just at the part where it sucks. And you cannot skip this. I know y'all try, you can't. You can't skip it because this is about you changing your identity more than it is about completing steps. Do you have the identity of doctor? You can't hack your way here. You got to go through this process. You can go through it faster by accepting it, but like you got to go through the process. Mimi be giving me all the assignments this week, and I am here for it. Now, this week alone, I am making a workbook. I'm making a T-shirt. I forgot the other thing you said yesterday, but she got assignments, and I love it. Pit of misery. This is where people will quit and do something else. This is where the 60% of people who don't complete their doc program bounce out. 60. That number is probably higher. I probably need to go look at some more updated literature. It's probably higher at this point. But the last time I checked, it was 60% of people who don't make it. You think it's your physical energy, because that's what people tell me. I'm just so tired. I'm so exhausted. But it's your emotions, which is why we spend so much time talking about emotions here. Because all the sleep in the world and all the energy drinks don't mean that you're going to still be able to do it. What controls your actions? Your emotions, how you feel. When you are consistently practicing emotions like overwhelm, confusion, guilt, shame, entitlement, arrogance, you get stuck in that pit. You will stay in that pit. And I do mean practice them. Find ways to recognize how these are showing up and how you can process them so you can get out of the pit. But you're still holding on, Carla, and that's what's important here. So where are you? Where would you put yourself on this curve? Don't worry so much about where you are in terms of the dissertation, but more about the thoughts. If it's helpful, I can go back. Where are you, would you say? You can use the thoughts if that's more helpful in the pits. I spend so much time here. I like it on my nerves because I'm like, girl, when you gonna like learn? Every time I'm surprised, like, oh, how are you here? Until I have to be like, you ready to get out of it? Somewhere in the pits, all about the data. I remember telling a coach one time, I was like, listen, girl, I done made a bed here. I got a candle. I got some music. I just made a home in this pit. And she was like, you just happy to be here? I'm like, that's all I got for you. Because I tried everything in my mind of how to get out, and clearly I'm not gonna leave. So I'm just gonna stay here and make it comfortable. And she was like, if that's what you need to do, then that's fine. What if that doesn't have to be a problem? I'm like, it's not. I'm comfortable. Because I described it as the door. I'm in a doorway and I know the door is open, and all I need to do is walk through the doorway and I'll be on the other side, but I can't get myself to walk through. And she was like, yeah, so we're just going to stay here and be comfortable until you're ready to walk through. And that was probably like one of the first times, like having the permission to be like, yeah, we can't push through everything. And I was telling someone a couple of weeks ago, I was coaching. They said, well, I'll just push through to get done. I said, well, that's dangerous because if we keep pushing through, y'all, it comes at a cost. And it's eventually going to be a cost that is your life. There's only so much we could push through. And so sometimes we just got to be comfortable being in the pit. Make friends with the pit. It's your friend. It's going to teach you so much. Literature review, dangerously close to the quitting line, but I don't want to quit. I just want to understand what I am supposed to be doing. Not sure if I know what I'm supposed to be doing. But all this information this week, I've literally walking through your lit review PowerPoint. I hope it's helping. I had a friend, we were like, why do we need to talk about what other people did? We don't care. Can we just do our own research? I'm like, exactly. Who needs a literature review? But if we were all just out here doing what we wanted to do, then we would just be repeating history. But again, let me not. I'm about to digress and I'm going to just stay on track. I'm embracing the suck and giving myself some grace. Yes, no one wants to read the literature review, which is why I'm like, why can't we just do the little couple of paragraphs that IRB asked for and keep moving? Why do we need to do the full literature review? Energy. It is hard to find a definition for energy, y'all. It was very, very challenging. The one I settled on from the Googles is the power and ability to be physically and mentally active. Number one, does your body have enough calories to perform the requested actions? Because that's physical energy. And then emotional energy. Can you access one or more of these emotions? Openness, focus, peace, gratitude, willingness, curiosity, acceptance, commitment, courage, care. You notice I didn't put nothing about no motivation or inspiration on here because the pit don't care about that. Can you access one of these? You need energy to focus on the task, execute the task, read other people's words, write shitty words on the page, edit those shitty words, submit it for feedback, repeat this 4 more times, hype yourself up when you're tired or having a bad day, defend your decisions of research decisions, keep going when it feels like you're stuck in place. Like you need energy, emotional energy to get out the pit. The more energy you have, the less time you need to complete the task, right? Because I use this example all the time, as long as you have clarity, of course, right? Like if Beyonce was coming, I got all the energy. Actually, don't even worry about it. It's already done, right? Because emotionally, I'm excited to be with Beyonce, so I'm going to do all the things. Whereas it's like, well, just do them all now. No, it's not the same energy. It's not the same emotion. It's about your emotions. It's not about motivation. It's about what other emotions are you tapping into. Don't even we're going to talk about this mute challenge at some point and why people can't follow instructions. Okay, simple instructions. If you truly understood how much energy it took to become a doctor, you would be more willing to say no to those people. Like you would be like doing your scholar basics like it's your job. You would be eating food like it's your job. You would be going to sleep, laying down somewhere like it's your job. You would tell them people at your job, actually, you only pay me to do this for this amount of hours by. You would ask more questions and you wouldn't care who felt what way about it. You would spend more time learning, being open-minded, instead of saying things like, well, I know that already. I tried that already. That's not going to work for me because I did it 3 months ago, or I did it 3 years ago and it didn't work. Not realizing you were a different person 3 months ago or 3 years ago. You were at a different part of this process. You were probably on a different part of the curve. If you truly understood what was required, like if you understood it on an emotional level, you were like, I don't got time to entertain y'all. I gotta go. And I guess another way of me saying this is if you had a different relationship with yourself, you would know that in order to help other people, in order to be the person, the friend, the feeling the identity you want to be, you have to go take care of yourself. It's not a luxury. No, I have to eat this amount of time today. I have to go to sleep. I have to drink water. No, it's not an option because you truly understand the capacity, the amount of energy you would need. Excuse me. I couldn't find a cute name for this. I just call it passive aggressive entitlement. Passive aggressive, right? It's like an indirect, like I'm be aggressive, but in an indirect way. You make demands of others. Well, why didn't my check? They should have responded to my emails. I emailed them 2 days ago. Why didn't they respond to me? I submitted this for feedback a day ago. Why don't I have it in my inbox already? Like you're making demands in that way, but you won't ask them about it. Or you might say, well, they should be more supportive, but you won't go talk to them about being more supportive. And that's where the entitlement comes in. You're like, well, I shouldn't have to do that. I shouldn't have to say my boundaries. I shouldn't have to tell people I'm writing a dissertation. There's a lot I could have said about this, but how I understand it is like you did over your lifetime, you overcame a lot to get here. A lot of people in your program and your cohort didn't have to do the same things, did not have to overcome the same life things you did to make it to the program. And you might even say like they had it easier. And I am validating that, yes. And that doesn't mean that you get to skip this part of the process. Just because it was hard doesn't mean you get to skip this part. One doesn't have anything to do with the other, as much as that sucks. Be willing to go the long way. Stop looking for an app, stop looking for the website, stop looking for the shortcut to make it easy. Be willing to go the long way. Just because you have to do all this other stuff up front doesn't mean you get to skip the long way. Because if you're truthful with yourself, you spend more time trying to find the shortcut than it would have taken you had you just took the long way. You just took it one thing at a time. The true and tried method. You're going to show up and you're going to write the things. It's going to suck, but you're going to send it off to somebody anyway. They're going to give you feedback and you're going to keep repeating. Me saying write a shitty paragraph is my way of helping to make the long way more doable. And I don't know if y'all can hear Sir fighting with his bid behind me. Oh, Carla, that means it's going good. Like my research is doing, it's going well. I think it's supposed to say you're used to only doing things that come with a reward. Like when you're younger, you're like caregivers, parents, let me do a thing. You know how little kids be like they jumped off the couch onto the floor and they're like, look at me. Because they want you to smile and be like, good job. Immediate reward. Every time like you were in a course, you had an assignment every week or every other week. You got a grade for it. That was your reward. You go to work, maybe you get a paycheck every week, every other week, every month. It's a reward. So you're used to being like, if I show up, as long as I show up and I like do a little bit of razzle dazzle, then I'll get a reward. But the dissertation is like, where the reward at? I didn't put in hours. I've worked the hardest I've ever worked. Where's my reward? But the dissertation came to teach you, what does it look like to show up when there's not an instant reward? There are no grades, right? When you submit that document for feedback, you start going towards the back because you think there's a grade. No, all that's left for you at the back is more comments. Overall feedback of what to improve. There's no grade. And that is hard, y'all. Like when you're used to going through your classes and you're looking for that grade and now there's not a grade. So you don't know if you're doing it right. You're like, am I on the right track? You just keep telling me to read and look at APA and write. Is this meeting your expectations or not? They're like, keep going. And anytime someone gives you any feedback is what I was going to say on here. It feels like a personal attack or indictment because you're not used to getting feedback, especially absent of a grade. And then you chose probably most likely a topic that is very close to your personal experience. And so when someone is giving you feedback, it feels like you're telling me my experience isn't real. Like if someone says, now, Leanna, what does being from the Caribbean have to do with sexual development? Like now it's a whole personal attack. And you're like, what you mean? That's my experience. It's the life I lived. They're like, yeah, but I don't get it. And if somebody's saying I don't get it, it feels like they're saying they don't get you. when they're just critiquing the work. Because in their mind, in general, research is research. It's supposed to be separate from you. But you're like, no, I chose this topic because it was close to me and because I want to help people like me. They're treating it like an educational exercise. You're treating it like your identity. And I'm not saying you don't. That's wrong. I'm just trying to explain why it's hard to submit things for feedback. And they black, Chris. I got on black Air Force Ones in this presentation. I felt it in my spirit. Okay. The long way is the faster way. I can't tell you how many times I have to repeat this to myself. The long way is the faster way. When you learn how you naturally show up in work, that if we got to go back to you show up once a month and you put in effort and then you don't do nothing for the rest of the month. That's how you work. That's how you work. Be willing to go through the process. This is what I do. And I wish Gabby was here. It's like 6 hours every week, if that. She's writing that literature review. She thought she was gonna never get out of the literature review, but she was like, I got 4 to 6 hours every week for this literature review, and that's it. And she rewrote it multiple times. She just accepted it at some point. Just make peace with it. It's gonna be challenging. It's gonna be tedious. It's gonna be boring. No, it's not gonna entertain you. That's what the pit is. It's not entertaining anymore. It was entertaining to go to classes and learn new things and talk to people and be like, what if when I write my dissertation, I'm gonna do it like this. When I do it, I'm gonna have these methods. That was fun. But now we're not in the fun part. We're in you do the same thing over and over and over. That's consistency. But make sure though, you do not quit because it feels like it's not working. Because how it feels, while your feelings are valid, they're not always true. They don't accurately always tell you what's happening in the moment. Because something can feel like when I get bored, I'm like, it's not working. I must do something new. And so then I go find something new. But my feelings were lying to me. I was just bored. Be okay with being bored. There's another book, The Compounding Effect by Darren Hardy. As I was also creating, I was like, there's a lot of white men in this presentation. So my apologies for that. But when the system changes and they allow other people to write about time management and whatnot, we'll be here. But Darren friend, right? He was like, if we treated habits and tasks like the banks do money, we would be better off. That when you show up and you make a small choice and you make that same choice over a period of time, you would have significant results. Right? So I think this is episode on the podcast. I think it's like 151 or 156. I talked about this, but anyway, like if you showed up in the bank and you're like, okay, I'm gonna put $1 in every month. Eventually, between you putting $1 in every month and interest, it will start to compound and your efforts will start to stack up. We're following me so far with this whole compounding effect. James Clear, another white man, Atomic Habits. But I really do love this book, though. I try to listen to it at least once a year. If you haven't listened or read it. I would say listen, not read it. I wish I had the book, y'all. It's a whole textbook. Reading it makes a difference. I'm not really sure why, but anyway, habits are the compound interest of self-improvement. The same way that money multiplies through compound interest, the effects of your habits multiply as you repeat them. They seem to make little difference on any given day, and yet the impact they deliver over the months and years can be enormous. If you can get 1% better each day for 1 year, you'll end up 37 times better by the time you're done. You showing up and writing a shitty paragraph, eventually those paragraphs are going to turn into shitty pages, and those pages are going to turn into chapters. And those shitty chapters are going to turn into a done dissertation, right? You say, I just want to be done. Are you willing to write a shitty paragraph until you get there? Or do you want it to be perfect? Going back to our conversation, was that last week? Okay, Danielle, tell me.
How do you know when to take the time to regulate and when to ignore the emotion?
How do I know to take time to regulate? I check in to see what emotion, if I can, what emotion is happening and at what intensity. Because I don't always know how to name my emotions on the surface, I have to look at what am I doing. For me, if I notice myself staying up, now this is not about each individual thing, but a combination of things. So if I notice that I'm staying up later, like I'm not going to sleep until 3 or 4 a.m., but I'm still waking up at like 6 or 7 a.m., it's usually my first indicator. If I also recognize you didn't eat not one meal You keep going several days and you haven't eaten anything until at night, and then I want to eat all the things. If I wake up and my mouth is sore because I clench, that's an indicator. If I notice that I'm playing games like Candy Crush on my phone, because every Sunday if you have an iPhone, it tells you how long you spend on your phone. When it's getting up to 15, 18, 20 hours a day, it's a combination over time is how I know, like, you need to take a time out and go regulate yourself. Right now, sometimes that takes a week or more to figure out. Sometimes I could tell in a day, depending on how achy my body is, or if I realize I haven't talked to any of my friends or anything, like I'm isolating more than usual, is how I know I'm in a deep dysregulated state. And so I don't force myself to do that. But if I've been like consistent in terms of eating, drinking, sleeping, and I don't want to do it. I keep trying to find like new and shiny things to do or projects I'm more excited about. I'm like, no, get back, go do the thing. So I don't have a clear cut answer, but that's what I do for me personally. But if you want to keep talking about it, we can in terms of how things show up for you. What's another example in the book Atomic Habits that James Clear provides is ice cube melting. And this whole idea if you improve by 1% every day, right? So an ice cube at 28 degrees is still a solid ice cube. It's still solid at 29, at 30, 31, right? It's getting warmer, but it's still solid. It is not until 32 degrees Fahrenheit that the ice begins to melt. If you're only focused on getting to the end of the dissertation, you're missing the magic. You're missing the incremental steps and progress that has to happen in order to get here. This is the real magic. This is just the end result. We want to do this. He has a lot of these examples in the book. Excuse me. And so again, put that on your to be read list. Every month is like, what is the one thing you're going to focus on? Right? I asked you, what is the one thing you're going to focus on for November? Excuse me. And if you show up every week, right? If you're doing the weekly plan, I asked you to give me 3 individual tasks that get you closer to completing this one thing. If you did that, say it's 4 weeks in a month, you would have completed a total of 12 things. But if you allow yourself, not but, and if you allow yourself to keep using this process, what you will start to notice is that these 12 things maybe turn into 16 because now you understand the process. You understand how to chunk your task down and how to focus on one thing at a time. So you will naturally get faster, which means you will have more energy, clarity, time to do more. So you'll get more done in the same amount of time if you allow yourself to just focus on one thing at a time. You can't jump here, right? We got to do this one thing at a time. Right? So I teach the framework, 3 rules: scholar basics every day, scholar planning routine every week, share communication plan every month. Right. This is a schedule. Feel free to adapt it. What would it look like? 10 hours a week, right? Is what I asked. Sunday, you come to the call, it's 2 hours, right? You evaluate your plan, you make a new plan. Let's say Monday, you do your first task, 2 hours, done. Tuesday, you do your second task, 2 hours, done. Wednesday, you do your third task, you're done for the week. On Thursday, you come here, we do a lesson or do something like this, ask questions, get coached. Friday and Saturday are free, unless you're like, I'm in overflow and I can do a few extra things. Or I could just sit here and mind my business and scroll on my phone because I did what I said I was going to do. You could. It could be that simple. Final thoughts here. Capacity equals time plus clarity plus energy. You need all 3. The more that you focus on your capacity, the more you'll be able to get done. Remember, the further you go down this road, the more you'll realize how much you don't know. This is not a race to know as much as possible about research or your content area. The more energy you have, the less time you'll need. Accept your natural approach to work. Make peace that it's going to be boring and tedious, but allow yourself to take it one step at a time and don't quit because it feels like it's not working.